monthly show contributor and friend of the show, Ted Reeder. Ted, how are you tonight?
Good. How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing outstanding, Ted, and I always appreciate you making time for the show. I know you're on a whirlwind book tour on top of breaking all sorts of hamburger world records. So, Ted, I got to ask you, when you were on last month, you had made kind of a reference to working this whole big issue out with the world record hamburger, and it was just kind of a teaser, and we said if you did it, you'd be on next month to talk about it. But as you look back on it, I know you had the cookbook out that we talked about last time about the hamburgers, but when does the whole thing about wanting to build the biggest world record hamburger strike you, and how long does the plan take to get it going?
About 5 years ago, I had the idea of breaking the Guinness Book of World Records for a large hamburger. But it was just an idea, and it stuck in the back of my mind. And when I eventually wrote a book on burgers, and my newest book, Napoleon's Everyday Gourmet Burgers, is 110 different burger recipes. And I thought to myself, hey, the best way to promote this book would be to make one more burger and just make it the world's biggest commercially available hamburger. And so we went about, once the book went to print in late last year, we started making some plans about how to do this burger. And really in the spring, in March, as the weather cleared up, I started making more plans, and we started talking to Napoleon Grills in Canada and about the design of the burger. And we had this meeting, and it came up to, and I said, okay, here's what this burger is going to look like. And I figured it's going to be about 200-pound patty, so that we can break the current record by Malley's Sports Bar in Michigan of 185.5 pounds. And I originally thought I'll make a 200-pound patty, and that'll be it. And then I started looking into it and doing some more work and testing the grill and playing around. And finally it came up with that the patty ended up being 307 pounds of ground meat.
I mean,
go ahead.
It just sounds almost unfathomable at 200 pounds. Then you increase it by 107 pounds. So, I mean, you're talking just about that much of raw meat, and then all the other stuff that has to go along with that. I mean, what kind of a process are we looking at here?
We're looking at weeks of insanity, of really thinking it. And at the same time, I was working on my next book for next year called Beerlicious. And so I was trying to put this all together, and so I did my first test, and I'd cooked 1-pound burgers, 2-pound burgers, 5-pound burgers, 10-pound burgers, and I'd never done anything bigger, but I had done some calculations and figured out what the size of that burger would be, and I was able to put that together. But once that happened, so I said, okay, I got to cook I worked out a 42-pound hamburger, and I tried to cook it on a Meadow Creek grill.
Nice.
And I cooked this 42-pound hamburger on this Meadow Creek grill, and what I found was that I burnt the living daylights out of the one side of it in about an hour and a half. And I said, well, this isn't going to work if I'm going to try and do this with a 200-pound patty. But when I flipped the burger over to the second side, I did some modifications, and I said, okay, that was all direct. Let's slow things down. Let's look at this from a different angle. And I moved all the charcoal out of the way. Now, guys that have had this record before me, let me clarify, have all done this burger in an oven. They've put it into a mold and they've baked it in the oven that I've seen. And I decided that if I'm going to go and break this record, I'm going to have to do it on a grill, and I'm going to make it even harder. I'm going to do it on a charcoal grill.
Why not make it absolutely the most difficult process on the face of the earth, right, Ted?
Why not? If I'm going to do it, go big or go home, baby.
All right,
and that's my philosophy.
So you have to have a huge grill, and how long did it take Napoleon to make a grill, and was this specific for this event only?
Well, I had talked with the folks at Napoleon and said, this is my plan, and this is how I figured it out so far on what this should look like. A firebox that can be as big as the burger, and that will hold all the charcoal. And then I need sides and side walls, and then I figured some kind of an apparatus of a cage type of grill, so it'll eat based upon the Meadow Creek principle, that it just, you turn it over and it's nice and easy.
Right.
And so I took that concept and said, this is what I want to do, but we need to modify it. We need to be able to clamp it down. It needs to be at least to go to a foot thick, in case the burger patty itself is going to be a foot thick. And so they started working. It didn't take them much longer than about a month to put the whole grill together. And I once I flipped my burnt 42-pound burger and I started cooking it on the other side, I put a water pan underneath it to create the steam. And I had the charcoal all the way around it, so I was cooking it indirectly. So once that happened, we were able to make that the other side came out absolutely perfect.
So when you have when you have the whole thing, ready to go when it's the day of to break the record, I'm sure a lot of people are fascinated with the fact of how do you get 307 pounds of raw meat onto a grill?
Well, what we did is we made a mold, and the mold was 40 inches in diameter and about 18 inches thick. And if the viewers or the listeners want to go online to my Facebook page, they can look at photos of all of the test runs that I did. And so there's a ring. We did a test on this grill because the charcoal was running over 1,000 degrees. Oof. And we had to put water pans in between the charcoal and the grill itself. But, I mean, it was pretty easy because we built a plate. We put the burger on it. We put the ring on the plate. We put the burger meat into it. We had another plate over it to press it down. And we let the burger rest. So when we put that burger into the grill and clamped it down, it pushed it. Now, this is a 307-pound patty. It's 46 inches in diameter and 6 to 8 inches thick.
Wow.
It took 6 hours to cook, and it took 400 pounds of Basque charcoal to cook it.
Wow. 6 hours to cook.
Right.
And
then there was the bun.
Well, what type of an internal temperature are you looking for on a finish?
Well, because we're in Canada and because we're in Ontario, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency and the Toronto Board of Health makes me cook that burger because it was a consumable burger. It wasn't just for show. People were going to eat this. I had to cook that burger to an internal temperature of 160 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow. And this was...
So I had to make it well done. It had to be well done.
Was it ground beef?
And we had to have... Go ahead.
Was it ground beef, or ground round, or was it sirloin? What kind of meat did you use?
I used regular ground beef, about 20% internal fat, and then I used my Orgasmic onion burger seasoning in that mixture.
And everybody ate it when it was done, right? This was consumed?
And they ate it. We sold the thing for $7,500. and raised money for a charity that I'm involved with called Camp Bucko, and it's a burn camp for kids and burn survivor children. So that's what the camp is. So that was also to raise money for this charity and to promote my burger book. But the bun was 104 pounds. It also was 46 inches in diameter and a foot thick. And then we added in 35 pounds of lettuce, 35 pounds of tomatoes, 35 pounds of red onions sliced, 25 pounds of pickles, and 50 pounds of shredded cheese.
Wow. Sounds like what I had for dinner last night.
And in the end, that's a big burger.
Yeah.
In the end, it came out to 590.0 pounds.
Wow. So, I mean, you're looking at well over a quarter ton of meat and bun and condiments.
Yeah. One big-ass burger.
So, I mean, now be honest, Ted. I mean, you're a well-known chef. You're classically trained. You're well-versed in the outdoor barbecuing and grilling aspect. When you cut it up and you started serving it out, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good did it taste?
The flavor of the meat was great, and I would give it a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10. But it didn't have the moist and juiciness. Like when I did my test burger 2 days prior, I cooked it to an internal temperature of 135 degrees, and it was a beautiful medium rare. And I tell you, that burger was absolutely delicious. And that 307-pound patty was absolutely a 10 out of 10 on the delicious scale. It was moist, it was juicy, it was tender, it was wonderful. But because the laws in this country make me cook that burger to 160 degrees, it can only be as good as it is.
We're talking with Ted Reeder, and of course, he is an author, a barbecue and grilling expert, and is now the current world record holder for the biggest hamburger ever made in the galaxy. Ted, I know you're busy, and I really appreciate the time tonight. Thanks for doing it.
Hey, thanks a lot, Greg. Have a delicious night. And everybody, when you're in your backyard, when you're out there cooking, remember, the only thing that matters is in the end it tastes good, and that cold beer washes it all down and makes it a lot better.
That's right. Thanks a lot, Ted.
All right. Thank you.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. He's a beauty. Ted's a beauty, man.